Hello students, this is your English lesson. Today we are going to read unit number 9, Diary of a Nobody from Oxford Modern English book 8. So we start our lesson. First of all, words to know. Blackguard, a person who behaves in a dishonorable way. Blackguarded, said damaging and insulting things about someone to harm their reputation. Breakfast parlor. A room in large country houses, it was fashionable to have a smaller dining room in which to eat breakfast. Porter is trying to sound grand. Brick, an old fashioned, informal description for a helpful, generous person. Clerk, an office worker. Discharged, officially released from work. Dry rot, fungus that causes decay in wood in damp or enclosed buildings. Immensely, hugely, impotence, rudeness, disrespect, indignant, feeling or showing anger at unfair treatment, infernal, irritating, hellish, insolently, showing rudeness or lack of respect. Intervention, to step in and change what is going to happen. Puh, ugh, expressions of annoyance or frustration. Scraper, an old fashioned metal tool often set into the ground, used to scrape shoes clean. Why should I not publish my diary? I have often seen diaries of people I have never even heard of and I fail to see. Because I do not happen to be a somebody. Why my diary should not be interesting? My only regret is that I did not commence it when I was a youth. Charles Porter. My dear wife Carrie and I have just been a week in our new house, a nice 6 roomed residence with a front breakfast parlor. We have a little front garden, and there is a flight of 10 steps up to the front door, which, by the by, we keep locked. Cummings, going, and our other friends always come to the little side entrance, which saves the servant the trouble of going up to the front door, thereby taking her from her work. We have a nice little back garden which runs down to the railway. We were worried about the noise of the trains at first, but the landlord said we should not notice them after a bit and took $2 off the rent. He was certainly right, and beyond the cracking of the garden wall at the bottom, we have suffered no inconvenience. After my work in the city, I like to be at home. What's the good of a home if you are never in it? Home, sweet home. That's my motto. I am always in of an evening. Our old friend going may drop in without ceremony, or our neighbor Cummings might pop round. My dear wife Caroline and I are pleased to see him if he drops in on us, but Carrie and I can manage to pass our evenings together without friends. There is always something to be done. A tin tack here, a 110 blind to put straight, a fan to nail up, or part of a carpet to nail down, all of which I can do with my pipe in my mouth while Carrie is not above putting a button on a shirt, mending a pillowcase, or practicing on our new cottage piano on hire purchase. It is also a great comfort to us to know that our boy Willie is getting on so well in the bank at Oldham. We should like to see more of him. Now for my diary. April 3. Tradesmen called for custom, and I promised Farmerson, the ironmonger, to give him a turn if I wanted any nails or tools. By the by, that reminds me there is no key to our bedroom door, and the bells must be seen to. The parlor bell is broken, and the front door rings up in the servant's bedroom, which is ridiculous. Dear friend going dropped in but wouldn't stay, saying there was an infernal smell of paint. April 4. Tradesmen still calling. Carrie being out, I arranged to deal with Horwin, who seemed a civil butcher with a nice clean shop. Ordered a shoulder of mutton for tomorrow to give him a trial. In the evening, going unexpectedly dropped in to show me a clay pipe he had won in a raffle as a prize, and told me to handle it carefully as it would spoil the coloring if the hand was moist. He said he wouldn't stay as he didn't care much for the smell of the paint and fell over the scraper as he went out. Must get the scraper removed or else I shall get into a scrap. I don't often make jokes. April 5. Two shoulders of mutton arrived. Carrie, having arranged with another butcher without consulting me, going cold and fell over scrapper coming in. Must get that scrapper removed. April 6. Couldn't find umbrella and thought it was pouring with rain. Had to go without it. Sarah, our servant, said Mr. Going must have took it by mistake last night, as there was a stick in the all that didn't belong to nobody. April 7. Being Saturday, I looked forward to being home early and putting a few things straight, but two managers were absent through illness, and I did not get home till 7. I am afraid we shall have to get some new stair carpets after all. Our old ones are not quite wide enough to meet the paint on either side. Carrie suggests that we might ourselves broaden the paint. I will see if we can match the color dark chocolate on Monday. April 9. Commenced the morning badly. The butcher, whom we decided not to arrange with, called and blackguarded me in the most uncalled for manner. He began by abusing me and saying he did not want my custom. I simply said, "Then what are you making all this fuss about it for?" And he shouted out at the top of his voice so that all the neighbors could hear, "Pah! Go along! Ugh! I could buy up things like you by the dozen." I shut the door and was giving Carrie to understand that this graceful scene was entirely her fault when there was a violent kicking at the door, enough to break the panels. It was the blackguard butcher again, who said he had cut his foot over the scraper and would immediately bring an action against me. Called at Farmerson's ironmonger on my way to town and gave him the job of moving the scraper and repairing the bells, thinking it scarcely worthwhile to trouble the landlord with such a trifling matter. Arrived home tired and worried. Mr. Potley, a painter and decorator who had sent in a card, said he could not match the color on the stairs. He said he spent half a day calling at warehouses to see if he could get it. He suggested he should entirely repaint the stairs. It would cost very little more if he tried to match it. He could only make a bad job of it. It would be more satisfactory to him and to us to have the work done properly. I consented but felt I had been talked into it, planted some mustard and cress and radishes, and went to bed at 9. Appleton. Thompson came round to attend to the scraper himself. He seems a very civil fellow. He says he does not usually conduct such small jobs personally, but for me he would do so. I thanked him and went to town. It is disgraceful how late some of the young clerks are at arriving. I told three of them that if Mr. Perkup, the principal, heard of it, they might be discharged. Pete, a monkey of 17 who has only been with us 6 weeks, told me to keep my hair on. I informed him I had had the honor of being in the firm 20 years, to which he insolently replied that I looked it. I gave him an indignant look and said, I demand from you some respect. Sir, he replied, all right, go on demanding. I would not argue with him any further. You cannot argue with people like that. In the evening, Going called and repeated his complaint about the smell of paint. Going is sometimes very tedious with his remarks and not always cautious. April 11. Mustard and cress and radishes not come up yet. Today was a day of annoyances. I missed the quarter to nine bus to the city through having words with the grocer's boy who for the second time had the impertinence, lack of respect or rudeness to bring his basket to the hall door and had left the marks of his dirty boots on the fresh cleaned doorsteps. He said he had knocked at the side door with his knuckles for a quarter of an hour. I knew Sarah, our servant, could not hear this as she was upstairs doing the bedrooms. So asked the boy why he did not ring the bell. He replied that he did pull the bell, but the handle came off in his hand. I was half an hour late at the office, a thing that has never happened to me before. There has recently been much irregularity in the attendance of the clerks, and Mr. Perkup, our principal, unfortunately chose this very morning to pounce down upon us early. Someone has given the tip to the others. The result was that it was the only one late of the lot. Buckling, one of the senior clerks, was a break, and I was saved by his intervention. Intervention, action taken to improve a medical disorder. As I passed by Pete's desk, I heard him remark to his neighbor how disgracefully late some of the head clerks arrive. This was, of course, meant for me. I treated the observation with silence, simply giving him a look which unfortunately had the effect of making both of the clerks laugh. Thought afterwards it would have been more dignified if I had pretended not to have heard him at all. Cummings called in the evening and we played dominoes. April 12. Mustard and cress and radishes not come up yet. Left farmer's son repairing the scraper, but when I came home found three men working. I asked the meaning of it, and farmer's son said that in making a fresh hole he had penetrated the gas pipe. He said it was a most ridiculous place to put the gas pipe, and the man who did it evidently knew nothing about his business. I left his excuse was no consolation for the expense I shall be put to. In the evening, after tea, Going dropped in, and we sat together in the breakfast parlour. After a while, Going began his usual sniffing, so anticipating him, I said, you are not going to complain of the smell of paint again? He said, no, not this time, but I will let you what. I distinctly smell dry rot. I don't often make jokes, but I replied, you are talking a lot of dry rot yourself. I could not help roaring at this, and Carrie said her sides quite ached with laughter. I never was so immensely tickled by anything I have ever said before. I actually woke up twice during the night and laughed till the bed shook. Now come to the exercises. Comprehension. Answer the following questions. A. Porter has rented a house. What is it like and what issues are caused by its location? Answer. Porter has rented a house. It is a six-roomed house located by a railway track. It has lots of things in it that need fixing or repairing. The issues caused by the location are the noise of the trains and the damage to the garden wall caused by their vibrations. B. What is Porter's wife's name and how does he refer to her? Answer. Porter's wife's name is Caroline and he refers to her as Carrie. C. What do Porter and his wife do in the evenings? Answer. Porter and his wife do chores in the evenings. To pass evenings together without friends, there is always something to be done, as a Venetian blind to be done, a fan to nail up, or part of a carpet to nail down, etc. D. Who does Porter blame for the double order of mutton? Answer. Porter blames his wife for the double order of mutton. E. Who is going and why does Porter get irritated by him? Answer. Going is an old friend. Porter gets irritated by him because he keeps complaining about the smell of paint and the scraper. F. What jokes does Porter tell? Answer. Porter's jokes are puns, scrapper, getting into a scrap, and a dry rot, talking rot. G. Write lists under the following headings: Porter's friends, Porter's colleagues, tradespeople. Answer. Porter's friends, going and comings, the neighbor. Porter's colleagues, Pete, Buckling, Mr. Parkup, tradespeople, farmer's son, the ironmonger. Horwin, the butcher, the other butcher, Mr. Putley, the painter and decorator. These questions are more difficult. Discuss them first. Age. Farmer's son is mentioned 5 times on 4 different days. Write down in order the dates with a brief explanation of the interaction between Porter and Farmer's son on each date. How and why does Porter's view of Farmer's son change? Answer. Farmer's son is mentioned 5 times on 4 different days. April 3, Mr. Porter promises to employ him if he needs any nails or tools. April 9, Mr. Porter calls at his shop to give him the job of moving the scraper and repairing the bells. April 10, Farmer's son comes to Porter's house to fix the scraper. He tells Porter that he does not usually do such small jobs himself, but he is making an exception for Porter. Porter is flattered by this. April 12th, Porter leaves Farmer's son's repairing the scraper, but when he comes home, he finds 3 men working. When he asks about it, Farmer's son says that he had penetrated the gas pipe. He makes excuses, but Porter feels that is no consolation for the expense he will incur. Porter promises Farmer's son work and then thinks highly of him without any real reason to do so. His view changes when he realizes that Farmer's son's mistake will cost him more money. Which details from the diary reveal that Porter is a show off? Answer. There is some detail. After my work in the city, I like to be at home. What's the good of a home if you are never in it? Home, sweet home. That's my motto. I don't often make jokes. Pete, a monkey of 17, who has only been with us 6 weeks, told me to keep my hair on. I informed him I had had the honor of being in the firm 20 years and said, I demand from you some respect, sir. I treated the observation with silence, simply giving him a look. 2. Answer the following with reference to context. A. Mr. Going must have took it by mistake last night as there was a stick in the all that didn't belong to nobody. 1. Whose speech is Porter reporting? Answer. Mr. Going must have took it by mistake is the report. Porter is reporting Sarah's speech. 2. What has gone missing? Porter's umbrella. 3. Write the sentence out correctly by replacing the words in bold. Mr. Going must have taken it by mistake last night as there was a stick in the hall that didn't belong to anybody. B. I consented but felt I had been talked into it. 1. Who does Porter consent to? Answer. Mr. Putley. 2. What does he consent to? He consents to allowing Mr. Putley to entirely repaint the stairs. 3. What does talked into it mean? Answer. Talked into it means being persuaded to do it, usually against initial feelings or will. B. Working with words, idiomatic language. Match the phrases below to their meanings and then use them in sentences of your own. A. Keep your hair on. Don't panic or lose your temper. Talked into it. Persuaded. Drop in on. Visit. Take the trouble. Make the effort. Without ceremony. Informally and spontaneously. Given the tip, notified. Sentences. Keep your hair on. I always tell my students to keep their hair on when you are sitting in training session. Talked into it. There were 200 students in the hall. The motivator had to talk into microphone. Drop in on. The roof of the house dropped in on the residents and one of them was killed. Take the trouble. Your mother took the trouble to cook many delicious dishes, so you must sit and eat your meal. Without ceremony, the institution was opened without ceremony last year. Given the tip, people in this country generally give a tip of 10 rupees for good service in 5-star hotels. Can you split the following words into two and find out what each part refers to? Look in a dictionary. A. Neuroscience. Neuro relating to nerves and the nervous system. Science, the study of a particular subject. B. Egocentric. Ego, a person's sense of self esteem or self importance. Centric, in or at the center. C. Exoskeleton. Exo prefix meaning external or from outside. Skeleton, a framework or bone or other rigid material. D. Prototype. Proto, original or primitive. Type, a thing exemplifying the ideal or defining characteristics of something. E. Megaphone. Mega, very large. Phone, denoting an instrument using or connecting or connected with sound. Abbreviations. 6. What do the following abbreviations stand for? AC, air conditioning. AD, Anno Domini, Association. BSc, Bachelor of Science. C, 100. CC, cubic center. mg, mg, milligram. CWT, hundredweight. Depth, department. ED, education. Esquire. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. IST, information technology. GP, journal practitioner. HE, higher education. HQ, headquarters. HR, hours. IOU, I of you. Adverbial clauses. Underline the adverbial clauses in the following and say whether each is an adverbial clause of concession, purpose, manner, or comparison. A. She let the bird out of the cage so that it might fly around the room. Purpose. B. Though he is only 4, he speaks English very well. Concession. C. She works as hard as her sister. Comparison. D. I did not buy the bicycle although it was being sold at half price. Concession. E. Do this exercise. I have shown you. Comparison. F. He looks as though he is ill. Comparison. G. They came early in order that we might talk. Purpose. H. The man came though we asked him not to. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.